Welcome to the Feed Your Family Tonight podcast. Do you dread hearing the question, what's for dinner? Whether you spend your days keeping up with toddlers, running kids to after-school activities, or juggling a career and family, getting dinner on the table can be a struggle for us all. I'm Mariefiebach, a business owner, wife, and mom of 4. I'm on a mission to build stronger families one dinner at a time, and I'm here with tips, tricks, and inspiration you need to feed your family tonight. Welcome to the Feed Your Family Tonight podcast. Dana, I am so happy to be here with you today. How are you doing?
I am doing great, and I have been very excited about this interview, so I can't wait.
Well, the feeling's really mutual because I met you online through being part of your group coaching program. So it's really fun to be taking a couple minutes to meet you face to face. But you are the owner of Boss Mom and you are a mother. So I wanted you to tell us a little bit about what your life is like, what dinner is like in your home, and the ages of your children.
Okay. So I have been a co-parenting parent. I like to say I'm not really a single parent, but a co-parenting parent for the last 4 years. So since the last 4 years is very different from when it was like the normal family situation and you put dinner on the table when I have my children half the time. So the inconsistency of cooking for kids versus not is always a challenge. So like meal prepping is hard when you have children on 2 days, off 2 days, that kind of thing. Our dinner, I live in San Diego and we use our kind of dining area. I've converted into an office, so we don't have a dining room table, but we love picnicking and we love, we all sit around in our kind of kitchen island. We'll sit outside, we'll do different things like that, but we don't always do that sort of traditional eating all at the same time. I grew up in a family where we didn't really do dinners in the same way. So sometimes we're all not even necessarily eating at the same time. And I'm not massively disciplined about that because it works really well for us. We don't do it's not like they're watching movies while we're doing it or doing things like that. But I go with the flow. I have 2 kids. They're both have very different views on what good food is, what that looks like. And they constantly change their mind about things. So never buy anything in bulk when you have a 6-year-old, because they will tell you that all they want to eat is one thing. And then the moment you buy a large quantity of it, they've decided they hate it and they don't want it anymore. So yeah, I have mentioned before we hit record, I used to love to cook. I would take off a day from work back in the day and make a whole meal and have a party with a theme, and I'd cook all day. And I feel like my children have killed that part of me that just enjoys cooking because it's a pain in the butt.
Well, you're not alone, because feeding our children, sometimes it feels like it sucks the creativity out of us. And I hear that. I hear that in your voice. And it's always a balancing act. I have a couple of things. The first thing is that longtime listeners will know that I will say it's okay to be boring. So if you find that you're having the same things over and over again, I give you full permission to keep doing that if it works for you. But I hear in your voice that it works and then you get tired of it. Is that?
Yeah. And it's, I find I go into the grocery store and I just don't know, I had mentioned before we record that I'm not a big sauce casserole-y sort of person. Generally, I like going to the grocery store every couple days, and so that everything's more fresh. I live in Southern California. That's just a more of a style of the way we live here. Yeah. So it's I don't mind plain. But I definitely, it's hard to get your kids to eat all the things I would eat. If I'm having lunch, I take a ton of vegetables, including beets and Brussels sprouts and things that nobody likes. And I, cook them. I bake them so they're delicious. And then I will siphon them off into little tubs. And then I have a little side of, peanut sauce or something like that. And I will literally just eat a gob of delicious vegetables. I mean, get a child to do that. It's just, although my daughter likes raw sweet potatoes. I don't even know if that's a thing.
Well, it is a thing. And the thing about vegetables and kids is I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a dietitian, but my experience dealing with families, hundreds of families, is that raw is a really good way to get kids to start trying new vegetables. So the fact that she will eat a raw sweet potato, I think is great because raw sweet potatoes eventually turn into cooked. My children do not prefer cooked vegetables at all. And we have gotten to the point where they will eat all the salad in the world. So I start every meal off with a big raw salad and no one gets the entree until everybody's had their salad. And that way I know they've got the vegetables in them first. And then to be really honest with you, our family eats probably similar the way you do, where it might be like a piece of meat and maybe a veggie or maybe a starch, but we've had the salad and then the entree is really basic and really simple. We need to look at a way of making that really simple be not mundane for you.
Well, I like the idea of salad. I feel like I haven't really tried to give my kids a ton of salad, to be honest. And maybe we could test out some ways to get that going. I like that idea.
Another idea that has worked really well for a lot of people is they will buy one of those pre-made veggie trays that you can get at the grocery store, like something that you would grab and take to a barbecue or a party. And they will pull that out like during that witching hour where your kids are hungry after school and they're snacky and dinner isn't quite ready. You smile. I can. Yes. The viewers can't see, but she's got a smile ear to ear on that.
Everybody knows about that terrible time.
Right? And they will pull that out. And in their mind, that is the beginning of dinner. But in their kids' mind, that is snack. And so it becomes kind of the vegetable for the dinner. So the pressure to have the veggies is off the mom, but they're still getting the veggies and the kids are having something to snack on that you approve while you're finishing up that last little bit of dinner. And those pre-made veggie trays, there is no cleaning, there is no washing, there is no cutting. They are all done and ready to go. So that might be something that would work in your home is to, try one of those.
Yeah. Okay. So here's a question then. I have never done that before, right? So the kids are going to come home. So how do you take something that you haven't, like a habit you haven't instilled and because I'm going to put the tray out and they're going to be like, no, we're fine. So is it basically where just for however long it takes, you put the tray out and then you just go, there's nothing else. This is the only thing you get to eat until they slowly just give in.
Well, that's one way. Or there's other ways to make the tray. So do your kids like dips or ranch or anything like that or not really?
Yeah, they'll have ranch. Or Nutella. They love Nutella, which I don't want to have all the time since it's basically sweet chocolate, but they will dip things in Nutella, and peanut butter sometimes, but sometimes it's fickle when my daughter decides. That's the thing, is I think I'd have to like rotate them out because they'll be madly in love with something and then they'll be like, we don't like that anymore. So maybe I just rotate dips.
I love that idea of rotating dips. And so, Nutella and carrots is kind of good. Nutella and celery is kind of good. Mm-hmm. So you could throw out some carrots and celery with some Nutella. You could throw out some ranch with some cucumbers and some broccoli. And yes, when you are introducing new things to your kids, I'm really not a fan of like tricking or saying that, oh, we're going to do something special. And then, oh, here's a plate of vegetables, like
my kids would be so pissed off.
oh, mine too. Mine would, they'd be mad. And so what you can say is, give them like a regular, like after school snack. Are you guys in the habit of kind of an after school snack anyway? Or not really? Okay. Mm-hmm. So get in the habit of a regular after school snack. And then when you're kind of finishing up dinner or starting to cook dinner, just put the tray out and say, hey, if you guys are hungry, you can start eating this. It's part of dinner tonight.
Okay.
For you, saying that it's part of dinner, I think might actually help. Other families, you just put it out and it's snack. But from what I'm hearing from you, saying that it's just kind of part of dinner may actually entice them to eat more of it. So,
okay.
So try that technique. You talked before offline that you wanted to talk a little bit about snacks. Are snacks a frustration or are they under control?
Oh, I don't know if I have anything under control when it comes to feeding my children. So we'll just start there. It kind of depends on the day or the week, whether I feel like I've got it figured out or I'm a hot mess. But Yeah, snacks are, what's funny is I feel like my kids would go, oh yeah, we're fine. Like it's great. We, there's no problem. I find I go into the grocery store and I find myself wandering around being like, what do I do with myself? Because I don't want to just buy a bunch of gummies for them to eat. I don't want to just buy a bunch of cereals or such. I'm a healthy eater. And so but I also realized when I was my kids' age, I didn't like a plate of Brussels sprouts because I was craving it. Now I'm like, I think I'm going to just make some beets and goat cheese. And my kids are like, who are you? But I didn't care about those things when I was their age. So I go into the grocery store and I lead this healthy life. And it's hard to see, like, people don't make healthy things for kids. Like, I would tell any grown adult not to eat cereal bars. They're probably like one of the worst things made, but that's all they make for kids. So it's hard because it's like nobody makes things that could be snack wise for your children that aren't terrible.
So do your kids lean more towards the salty, crunchy, or to the sweet or the chewy? What are their favorites?
So my daughter is the salty, crunchy, and my son would be the sweet and chewy.
Okay, so you've got one of each.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you attached to the idea of packaged snacks, or with the thought of a little bit of homemade snacks that maybe you could make on a day when they're not there and have in the freezer ready to pull out for on a day when they are there? And no answer's right or wrong. I just want to know where you're at.
No, I'm totally down with doing stuff. And my daughter, who's the salty, is way easier to feed. She'll pull out a pickle from the fridge and she likes pickles, and she'll eat more vegetables, and she's much better at, and she's I don't want to sound terrible, but she's a girl. So she's like, oh, I'll just get up and get it. And my son's like, feed me. Somebody do this for me. And so he's the hard one because what he wants is always sugary. And I'm like, I don't want you eating a bowl of cereal in the middle of the afternoon that's literally full of the tons of sugar. Like, let's have something else. So the daughter's way easier to deal with. Yeah, but I'm totally down for making things, especially if it's things you could make and then put in the freezer and then pull out. So I'm not having to do it every day.
I have a couple of ideas that might work for you then. I have on my website a recipe for breakfast cookies. And they have a lot of oats and they have a lot of peanut butter. And one of the versions has bananas and the other version has actually canned pumpkin. So there's actually like some veggies in them. And they give that sweet. There is a little bit of sugar in them, but they're really filling. I like to recommend those to families where you've got a kid who's running off to a soccer practice or something where they need something to kind of fill their tummies to get them through till a dinner that's a little bit later. But those breakfast cookies you could make in a batch. My kids actually eat them frozen. They like them cold, but you could thaw it in the morning. You could throw it in the microwave for a quick minute, but you could make up a batch of those and it gets that sweet, chewy tooth off. And I'm not going to say it's quote unquote perfectly healthy, but it's definitely better than a lot of the packaged options you're going to find in the grocery store. So that's one thing that you might try for your son. The other thing is, have you ever made a baked oatmeal?
Baked oatmeal?
Yeah.
I do not know what that is.
Okay. That means you haven't made it yet. Baked oatmeal is kind of awesome, Dana. It's really good. It's an oatmeal that has some eggs in it and a little bit of milk. And you could use almond milk if you needed to go dairy free. And you can put different kinds of fruits and spices and flavors in it. And I've got 2 or 3 of them on my website. I've got a lemon blueberry. I've got a cranberry orange. I've got an apple cinnamon. And you can make that and then cut it into squares, freeze it in individual zip bags in your freezer. And that kind of has that sweet, kind of chewy, that kind of takes the sweet off. But again, it's full of oats. There's a little bit of protein from the eggs. There's a little bit of milk in there. And that can make kind of a good little sweeter snack, but it's not like you're feeding your kid a cereal bar. Does that sound like something you might make?
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, especially because I love the breakfast foods. I would love it if they ate more breakfast foods. And some of that is just I've given up a little bit. So I'm less disciplined like in the morning because I'm also getting ready for work and I'm also, those kinds of things. So yeah, things that we could throw, and we end up having bagels a lot for breakfast because it's just like I'll toast the bagel and give you some butter. because we're in the middle of doing things. And in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm going to be that mom. Then I'm going to wake up early. I'm going to make us delicious plates of breakfast. And we all know how that turned out.
Well, and again, if you wanted to make this for breakfast, you actually can mix it up the night before and put it in the oven while you're taking your shower, which is what I do when I make it for breakfast, because it only takes 20 minutes to bake. But I'm thinking for you for a snack. So you could make it on the weekend, or you could make it on a Tuesday night after the kids go to bed. And then you can have it ready and portioned out for quick and easy grab and go kind of snacks for your son that has a little bit something sweeter. So that's something that works.
Yeah, I love it. Those are great ideas.
Okay, so now let's move to dinner. You say that your kids are eating like a chicken and a steak, and they're okay with that. But Are you wanting more variety? Are you wanting things to be easier? What would make dinner more pleasurable and better for you?
Actually, the idea you were having about kind of getting them to do some of the raw vegetables beforehand, I don't mind the process. I don't even mind. I eat simple like that. So, and I'm, I have a lot of clients who are nutritionists and things like that. So, and the way kids work is they don't need to have a balanced meal. Their nutritional habits could work on a weekly basis where they yearn for a bunch of protein and then they need a bunch of other something else. Human beings work like that. So I listen to intuitively like what my body is telling me I need. So I don't mind it. I think the feeling is that I'm just not giving them enough nutrients, that like, oh, I'm not, or satiating them. Like I'm not giving them enough to be healthy. I don't want to underfeed my kids. I kind of, in a lot of ways, I don't have time to snacks or things, like they have to tell me they're hungry. And then I'm kind of the jerk face that makes them tell me twice. Like, I don't want to just give you food for food's sake. Like, I want you to ask me not because you're bored. I want you to ask me a second time because you're actually a little hungry, and then we can get you a snack. Yeah. So I don't mind it's not boring to me to eat that way. I think I just feel bad that that I don't know how to get them the things they should be eating to have a good amount of healthiness, as opposed to everything in the grocery store that is terrible.
So do you think that they are necessarily lacking right now? Or do you think that you're just worried that you're not providing enough variety?
They show no signs of being malnourished.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, they seem perfectly fine. Okay. Yeah. So and so what we do, it's hard to get kids to eat vegetables and things like that. Although I definitely, I'm going to try I'd love to have the raw vegetable thing and get them into that to just get into better habits, is we get the big thing of green juice. And so they'll have a whole glass of green juice with dinner, and they actually really like the naked one. We'll do that. I have to rotate out. So maybe there's the vegetables for a certain pint, and then there is maybe the green juice, because they'll get sick of the green juice. So it's maybe I need the 2 or 3 things, for a month we do one, and then I kind of switch it up on them, and they get home from school and they have their glass of green juice, and then the next, and then I'll rotate them out. Because I think that's the thing, is you do something, it works, and then it stops really being enjoyable. And as adults, you have the same thing. You get a yogurt and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to eat this yogurt till the end of time. And then a month goes by and you're like, I just don't feel like it anymore. So it's I get it. If I could just rotate out, I think maybe that would help.
Did you see that half jar of yogurt that's been sitting in the back of my refrigerator for the past 6 weeks, Dana?
It's so funny how that happens.
Okay. So then maybe for you, when you are working, do you meal plan, or do you just kind of go day by day when you go to the grocery store frequently?
I think about meal planning. That's probably as far. I make lunch stuff for me that I break up, or I have my shake or something like that. So, but no, I am not I used to be able to do it. It's harder with a co-parenting situation, because it's funny how just a difference in the way your mornings go or your afternoons go will completely make that hard. And we rotate our schedule. So it's not like every Monday or it changes, it flips every single week. So it's not like every Sunday, that doesn't work. So I'd love to do more meal planning. I'd have to figure, I have a weird schedule.
Okay. Then you are perfect for weekly meal planning because your schedule is changing week by week. I have 4 teenagers and my schedule changes week by week because there are so many activities that are rotating that it's never, ever the same. So while I'm not having my kids come in and out of the house, our activities are changing week by week. So one thing I am going to encourage you to think about is taking 10 minutes at the beginning of the week for you. And for me, that's Mondays, but for you, that might be Saturday or Sundays. One of those days where you are sitting down and you're kind of looking at, okay, I've got the kids on this day, I've got this. When you're doing that other thinking about what your week is going to look like, which I'm sure you're taking a few minutes to do that, I'm going to have you think about taking 10 minutes and planning your meals for that week, or at least the meals when your kids are with you. Because I know sometimes when you're by yourself, then you're kind of grabbing this and you're grabbing that, or you're going with the things that you've prepped just for you. So maybe just start with planning the meals for when your kids are with you. And that's going to do a couple of things. The first thing is it's going to give you so much brain space because, Dana, you don't realize how much time you spend thinking about food until you have that task off your list. And I believe me, because all day you're thinking, okay, the kids are coming home. I've got some chicken in the fridge. What can I do with the chicken? Are they going to eat the broccoli? I have some Brussels sprouts, but they won't touch that. And that little loop twirls in the back of your head while you're doing all of your other tasks. So if you can take all of those thoughts and move them to 10 minutes at the beginning of the week, you are going to give yourself the gift of time. And I know for you, that's one of the most precious things that you have.
Yeah, no, that's great. And we do I do a daily focus board, or we've got the daily focus board. So I will add that in to probably Sunday because I always have some space, whether I have kids or not, to just think about it. I think the meal prepping is the thing that's hard. But if I can just think about what the meals are, I don't mind making the meal in real time most of the time, or doing something where for the snacks especially would be great to bake and then put it in the freezer. But yeah, I don't mind spending 30 minutes to make a meal. It's just to figure out what that meal is going to be. So yeah, if I start putting on Sunday, just thinking, what are those meals? What is it that I'm going to grab at the grocery store? That would probably make my life a lot easier. Probably save me a lot of money too, because I go to the grocery store and who knows what I buy.
Well, and that's it is, people talk about, we're recording this live in January, and when people make New Year's resolutions, they usually go to 3 things. They usually go to your money, they usually go to organization, and they go to health. And when you take 10 minutes a week and do your meal plans, you're going to save your money. You're going to feel more organized, and it usually improves your health because just by the fact that you eat at home more than eating out, you will be eating healthier. So take that when you're doing your Sunday planning time and at least plan just the meals when your kids are with you. And then as it expands, you can maybe add the ones that you're doing for yourself, which I bet you probably are already doing more than when you do the meals with your kids. I bet you're doing a little bit of more meal prep for yourself anyway. And so you start putting that all at the beginning of the week, and it's going to give you brain space, and it's going to help you make better decisions at the grocery store. And the other thing that happens that may sound surprising, but you often get more creative with the foods that you're making because you're thinking of them ahead of time. And so if there's things that you have to thaw or ingredients that you have to get, you're not trying to scramble last minute because you've done the thought ahead of time. Does that sound like something you can start doing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Before we wrap this up, are there any other questions you want to ask me? Do you want to pick my brain? Is there something else that you're like, oh, I wish Marie could help me with this?
I think the one thing I'd love if you've had any experience with this is testing things out on your kids, right? So you mentioned getting more creative, and there's nothing more frustrating than me going, I'm going to create this. And then I end up making a second meal because everybody hates it. And not because it's badly made. I'm not a bad cook, but because they don't like that flavor. I'm wondering, is there a way to say I'm going to have chicken and then maybe make a pesto or something that's on the side? And then the thing is that if they don't like it, they don't have to eat it, but I want them to taste it. Like, I don't want to force flavors on my children because I know that I did not have a refined palate as a child. But I do want them to try things, right? Like I didn't know I liked honey mustard until I was 30 and I was missing out because honey mustard is good, but nobody ever had me try it. And I don't like regular mustard. So I assumed I wouldn't like honey mustard. So it's like, I don't want my kids growing up missing out on flavors they would like or sauces we could be using. Like we just discovered they actually like pad thai, like Thai food. And we're like, well, that is a good thing to know, And yeah, so is there a testing like maybe a sauce testing that I could do or something like that?
I have a couple of thoughts. The first thing is in our house, when I was introducing a new food, I would put it on the plate and the rule was you didn't have to eat it. You just had to look at it. I had a kid that had real severe sensory issues. And so even getting them to look at it was a big deal. When you're trying new things, put them on the plate and say, hey, you can have a taste of it if you want. So there's no expectation that they have to taste it. They're much more likely to taste it if it is in their control rather than you forcing it on them. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I have an entire podcast episode on how to pick a recipe that your family will eat. It's episode 146. I'll link to it in the show notes, but let me kind of go over the highlights of the principles in that podcast episode. When you are trying new things on your children, you do not want to change two things at once. So the example that I often give is if you're doing a spaghetti and meatballs, you can't go from a spaghetti and meatballs to a chickpea curry because you have changed flavors and you have changed base ingredients. When you are trying to get your children to eat new things, change either the base ingredients, so the meat and the starch and this, or change the flavors. So if I were trying to get my children to try some new things, I would start with maybe making a lentil spaghetti with the oregano and the garlic and the red sauce. And so they're still having the familiar flavors, but you've changed out the meat. Or I would make something that has cumin and coriander in it, but it still has ground beef and it still has a pasta with it and it's still with a red sauce. So it's still not looking yellow, like you've got to. Yeah. So you're not changing too many things at once. So when you're looking for recipes, sometimes we get on our phone and we start scrolling through recipes, or we're in the doctor's office and we're flipping through a magazine. You want to ask yourself two questions. What is familiar about this recipe and what is different? And what you're looking for to find a recipe to take home and use on your children is something that's about half familiar and half different. And if you're really worried about a sauce or something, keep things as separate as possible. Keep the protein and the starch and the sauce all separate and serve it deconstructed, and then they can mix it if they want.
Okay. So this is one thing that's interestingly, I guess, good, but also a pain in the butt from a cooking perspective for my kids. My kids don't like pasta, rice, or potatoes. So they don't eat French fries. They don't eat pasta. They don't eat rice, which means when I say we have like meat and a side like that, it's great because I don't have kids eating a bunch of starches, I guess. They'll have the bagel in the morning, but we don't eat loaf bread. Like I don't eat loaf bread. We'll get like a fresh baguette or something sometimes. But yeah, so we don't eat bread sandwiches. They don't eat tortillas. And I didn't like force this on them. I want them. I'm like, please just let me make you a plate of pasta. They won't eat any of those things. So no tater tots, no French fries, nothing. So I'm like, I really am. It's like the big thing is if I could just get them to eat veggies and they just ate meat and veggies, they'd be fine. They'd be healthy according to all things. So it's like half the recipes I look at, I'm going, I can't even get them to eat the starchy version of this.
Will they eat a polenta or a riced cauliflower?
I don't know that I've ever tried such things.
Well,
I could give it a whirl.
You might try. Again, those kind of are starchy or starch replacement kind of things that are a little bit different. And if you could get them to try the polenta is a really great gateway to start. Then you kind of get some of the Italian flavors, some of the Mediterranean flavors. And if you can get them to eat it soft or get them to eat it fried and crunchy, like you can buy the little tubes that look like a tube of sausage and you can slice it and you can fry it.
The way I would normally do it is make them like little cakes almost that you could put chicken on or something.
Yeah. So that might be something to try. And then they start eating the polenta and you're like, okay, they like that. Maybe we can try a fried ravioli because it has that crispy on the out, and then you can kind of slowly transition them into maybe liking some of these other things. The rice cauliflower is another thing. If they don't mind the flavor of cauliflower, my kids kind of wince with cauliflower because it can be kind of stinky, which sounds, but it does. It kind of smells, And so, but that might be another little thing. If they like the rice cauliflower, then you can transition from the rice cauliflower to maybe a little bit of quinoa. And, but again, you're changing one little thing at a time. My kids wouldn't touch chicken enchiladas 4 years ago, and now it's one of their favorite things. And there's just a slow progression of little tiny changes that I made in those base ingredients or those flavors to get them to the point where they would eat a casserole. And I'm not a big casserole person, but that was, chicken enchiladas are like, every kid eats chicken enchiladas. I'm like, not my kid. Sounds like not your kid either.
Oh, well, I'd love it if they just eat tacos. Like I love tacos. And so, and all the things. That's the funny part is I used to be picky and now I love, besides onions and pineapples. Those are the only two things I don't like. Otherwise I eat tons of things that everybody else thinks is not, is gross. Yeah, I'd love it but I like that idea. Just I almost feel like when I'm doing that weekly planning, if I pick just one meal where I'm going to try something new, like replace one thing so that each week we're kind of testing out one thing for them and seeing how they manage it. So then that's one of my thought processes, which is I could be conscious about what that one thing will be. And then that way it's easier to implement and have me not give up. Because what'll happen is I'll have a long day or I just don't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or it'll be like, oh, I could go to the grocery store or we could just, but if I'm like, no, that was this one thing we're going to switch out, it sort of becomes motivation to do it. And so, well, I think that's a great idea.
Well, give it a try and see how it goes. Here's another little thing is I always tell people when you are trying something new with your family, you want to serve it to them 3 times with relative success before you kind of keep it in your regular arsenal. Because the first time they'll try it and they'll be like, I like it. And the second time they'll be like, And then the third time, we don't like that. So once you get past the third time of serving it and the kids are like, this is okay. I mean, and okay is good enough for me. It doesn't have to be, this is great. It could be, this is okay. Then you know that you can kind of add that to your arsenal. So if you give it to your kids the first time and they like it, and the second time they kind of go, meh, don't feel too defeated. Just move on to something else and then try it again in a couple of years.
Well, and you know me, I like systematic stuff. Like everything is iterative. So the idea of just picking one thing and then if they like it, we'll do it a couple more times and do that. And then it's like a process of elimination or a process of adding in. Like that feels doable to me. So it's less about meal planning and it's more about a system of testing. Like that's right up my alley. Testing is right up my alley.
I love it, Dana. I hope that one little thing, just trying one new thing a week and adding it in will expand your kids' palates and make dinner a little easier. So thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, me too. This is very helpful. I feel very much like I've got systems and processes and improvement things for all areas of my life. And feeding my kids seems to be one of those ones that has baffled me. So hopefully I'm excited to put some of these things into place and test out these little things and hopefully come to you with good news.
Well, I can't wait to hear back. I definitely want you to report back. If people want to hear a little bit more about Boss Mom,
boss-mom.com is the easiest place to go. That'll get you to our podcast, to the Boss Moms big Facebook group, to Nurture Convert Society, to all the things. So that's a good place to start.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Dana. And friends, know that small little things, even just trying one thing a week, is all you need to do to make big improvements in your home. So I hope you enjoy this, friends. Take care.